Hello and welcome to Fighting Foodborne Bacteria with Michael Brown. Today I'll be talking about common foodborne bacterias, how they come to live on our food, and how we can prevent them from making us ill. How does bacteria end up on food? And what causes food to spoil? Well, bacteria can come from many sources. It can come from human contact. It can come from animals. It can come from contact with soil or contaminated water, or a combination of any of these things. While there are laws and regulations in place to keep us safe and our food from becoming harmful, oftentimes these measures aren't enough. There is always risk involved when we eat, especially if we choose to eat raw or undercooked foods. Foods that are stored, handled, or prepared improperly are also sources of illness for humans. Now let's explore some of the more common foodborne bacteria that we may come in contact with. One of the most common foodborne bacteria is this pink fuzzy guy right here called Salmonella. Salmonella can be found on raw chicken, can be found on eggs, and other sources. Salmonella causes over 1 million instances of foodborne illness every year in the United States alone, and results in almost 400 deaths per year. Some of the most common side effects of salmonella poisoning are diarrhea, fever, and abdominal cramps. While these usually aren't fatal, the diarrhea, especially severe diarrhea, can result in hospitalization. Salmonella is a very good reason not to emulate Rocky and drink raw eggs. It's also the reason some people are afraid to eat raw cookie dough, but not me. Clostridium perfringens is a bacteria commonly found in the intestines of both humans and animals. It is a spore-forming, gram-positive bacteria. Outbreaks of this bacteria often occur when food is prepared in large quantities and then kept warm for a long period of time before serving. Outbreaks happen in places such as cafeterias, lunch lines, and events with catered food. Under ideal conditions, it multiplies very rapidly and can cause abdominal cramps and diarrhea. Campylobacter may look like green macaroni, but it's actually a really nasty bacteria. It can cause diarrhea, cramping, abdominal pain, bloody diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting, and lasts for up to a week. Occasionally, it spreads to the bloodstream and causes serious, life-threatening conditions. You may know Escherichia coli as E. coli, and it's often found in the intestines of animals such as cows. This is why you always want to order your burgers well done, because when many cows are ground up into little bits and turned into patties, and then not cooked all the way through, you have a higher chance of coming down with E. coli poisoning, and I don't think you want any of these side effects. Listeria, because of its common side effects of fever and diarrhea, often goes misdiagnosed, but this can be especially dangerous for pregnant women. In pregnant women, listeria infections can lead to life-threatening infections, stillbirths, and premature delivery. Symptoms for listeria won't appear for about a week to 4 weeks after you've had contact with the listeria bacteria, and can sometimes wait up to 70 days before they start to show themselves. There are ways to protect ourselves from these bacteria. The first way is by washing our fruits and vegetables. Washing fruits and vegetables can remove soil and water that may contain bacteria, While washing our produce is a good idea, it's often not a good idea to wash our raw meat. This can cause bacteria to spread from the raw meat onto surfaces such as utensils and cutting boards. Pasteurization is a process invented by Louis Pasteur. Here you can see him in his laboratory. What he's doing is he's heating up those bottles full of whatever it is, maybe milk or some other liquid, and by bringing them up to a certain temperature, killing all of the bacteria present in that liquid. Pasteurization can also be used for solid foods, not just liquids. It's just the matter of bringing it up to a certain temperature to kill all the bacteria living on the food. The best way to prepare meat to be sure that you aren't going to get food illnesses is by cooking the meat. Cooking the meat brings the food up to a temperature to kill any bacteria that may be present. Certain bacteria are present in certain types of meat, so be sure to use a food thermometer and be sure to know what temperature the food is safe to eat at. Curing foods with salt or sugar is another way to preserve it for future use. Salt and sugar, often referred to as salting, salt curing, corning, or sugar curing, is a matter of mixing salt and sugar or solutions of these into a brine. Common examples of cured food are bacon, sugar-cured ham, jams, and jellies. Freezing is one of the oldest methods of food preservation, and it's been around for centuries. It originated in the colder parts of the world and essentially works to bring the core temperature of the food down to a point where bacteria either die or can no longer reproduce. Widespread refrigeration allows for long-distance shipments and other long-term storage of food. In modern times, flash or quick freezing is the most common method of freezing and is especially effective with certain types of food. Modern scientists have come up with new methods for fighting foodborne illnesses and killing foodborne bacteria. These methods include using UV lights, which actually mutagenically break down the DNA or RNA of bacteria and also viruses that may be living in food. UV wavelengths from 260 nanometers to 270 nanometers break down the molecular bonds within the bacterial DNA, which can kill or disable them. This method is so exciting and effective because it doesn't spoil the taste, consistency, or any other quality of the food, yet is extremely efficient at killing any bacteria that may be present. Other modern methods of protecting us from foodborne bacterial illnesses are plant derivatives such as pinoresinol, which is isolated from the leaves of Cinnamomum camphora and has been proven to have antibacterial qualities which are effective against the 5 most common foodborne bacteria. I hope you were able to learn something from this presentation about foodborne bacteria, the illnesses they can cause, and the best ways to prevent them. Thank you for listening.